If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, I have Josh. Josh, how you doing today?
Oh, it's been a couple of weeks.
It has been a couple of weeks.
I have mostly gotten over the plague. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. After you get your molding thing out of your house and everything turned around.
Yeah, no, that you get a little water in the basement, and it soaks up into some old press board. And yeah, it was bad. As soon as I got out of the house, it better. But like the weather has been up and down and up and down, and my allergies are going through the roof. Just constantly having problems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where I'm going some of these days.
Yes. Oh, it sounds like you're experiencing the same problem that I had, but I had it as it pertains to game. Which is
just lost.
Just lost. I started an incomplete game. I was not ready, and I just said, "Okay, we're gonna launch."
I've got some great advice for starting an incomplete game. Do you want to talk about that today?
Yeah, let's talk about that today.
That sounds great. I started a couple of notes, and then I left everything blank beyond that. So, no. I think. So I've done a couple of games that I've started with like a wish, a hope, and a prayer, right?
Yeah.
And just sort of went from there, and you can really develop them into something strong. Did you had a good opening idea, I'm assuming.
So I had a whole different game plan to run. Okay. I had planned on running a whole different game, and I thought about it. And about 3 days before that game came out, was ready to debut, I went, This is too samey and it's too short. I don't like this. I don't think the story is fleshed out enough for me to present this game right now. It's not the right time. And so I need something else. And I had another idea. I had jotted down an idea somewhere, like a 1-word blurb. And I'm like, how do I make that work? And that's where I started. So I was like, I know how to get the guys into it, but I really don't, aside from that being sort of the crescendo line, I didn't have anything else.
So if this reminds me a lot of my problems with TV shows nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Today you go and you watch a TV show, and it's 8 or 10 episodes in a season, right? And then you don't have another one for 3 years. But it's a very specific, everything is planned out front to back. They know where the story is going. It seems, there's clues throughout the whole thing. There's always plot. There's never any breathing space or filler episodes or anything like that. Right? In the olden days, back before streaming services and Premiere TV and all that stuff, you would have these 22 episode TV seasons of TV where they had this wonderful idea for what the show was going to be in the first episode, and possibly even where we'd like to end this season. But in the middle, they had a whole bunch of space to fill in and no idea how to do it. So you'd end up with filler episodes. You'd end up with introducing one-off characters. And if the audience connected to it, they'd bring them back, and it'd become a huge part of the show.
Yeah.
And this was one of those things. It let the stories breathe better. And I think those older shows, yeah, filler episodes, some of them are terrible, but some of them are just like the best episodes of TV because you could experiment and try new things. And I don't see any reason why we can't apply that same sort of logic to our games.
Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. Again, it's an interesting analogy with the TV shows there, but I thought starting the game in like that midway point was a I just was like, or not even the midway point, but I was just I'm like I gotta do something. I gotta have some. I have to have enough to get through that first night, and then I'll figure out the rest of it later.
Yeah. Most of the time when I've gone and started games, sort of like I've got a great opening and I don't know where it goes from there. Uh, as you know me, um, I have a fairly complex and intricate world that I've developed with plenty of options for where stories could be, but I just don't know which one I want to tell, or I don't want to write the actual thing down, or I want to see what the players like, right?
Mhm.
And so I tend to go world building in place of story structure.
Yeah, that definitely. So like one of the things I did do, that I needed a setting for it,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew the hook was to get the guys to go back in time. I needed every time I've done this in the past, or generally speaking, when I make like a fake like city or world like in the modern day, I just sort of like plop one of these in at a point in time. Okay. I thought it'd be more interesting this time around to find a scenario where these like parameters sort of applied and made it like challenging where like when they went back in time, there was like a real world event happening at that moment in time that they could also sort of interact with or look into if that was what they were interested in. And so I put a little bit of extra like difficulty on my part. Thank you, Chat GPT, for being able to establish which things met my criteria, and then I was able to build from there.
It's people rag on ChatGPT and the other AIs, but they are great sounding boards. Just I don't think you should just like check with them and leave it. It's
I
great.
didn't like. I just needed to know like, does any point in history for this like location match up with what I'm looking for? And it gave me like 5 examples of like times in history where things would have been similar to this, or like locations or historical places. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, perfect. Like I can set this here. I can give the players the point in time, and then it's a piece of meat for them to kind of dig into. It makes they again, it's the world building right there. Now they
Mhm.
have the world around it, and I'm able to like build around that.
Well, and the fun part with using historical events like that, or places, is that you don't really have to spend weeks and weeks building a world because hey, look, it's already there. You just sort of have
There's
to,
accounts of it. It's
yeah,
history.
you just have to exploit it for your own
Yes.
fun. And like uh, for plot points that you can let your players glomp onto, like complex worlds with places to see and different cultures. Those are fun and interesting just to explore. I do that nowadays. That's why I go, on these lengthy vacations all over the place. Uh, it's to explore cultures and different environments. Um, but if you are like in your case, you're traveling back in time, going to strange and interesting places. In my case, when I'm writing stories, I'm writing an interesting world that's different from the one we currently live in. So you're talking about different politics, different social structures, things that your players may see as, um, you know, oh, that's interesting, or that's wrong, and we need to change something about that, or you see injustices in the world, and you want to make a difference. Um, And that leads your players into like making a story for you. And you can even go into like events. You said you were looking for a time and a place that had specific events had happened. Excellent. Events that make sense in the world that you've written may be just the plot hook to keep your players moving forward to do something with.
Yeah. Again, like you're right with the world building aspect to it, which is that if I had not chosen this, point in time, and I had not been able to rely upon the history of the period, what I would have had to do instead is, come up with a convincing enough setting for the players to be able to explore things about. Again, generally speaking, because even if you give your players a very specific goal, like go find person A, okay, but I don't know where person A is. I just know that they're in this city. The most important thing that you can give your players then next to that when they first get there is a breadth of options and a world building within that city, or the established overall world, or the politics to the city. All these different things about the city help you sort of determine, well, where should I gather my information? Are there side stories I want to glom onto? Where is safe and where is dangerous? Like being able to work yourself into the city, or whatever setting that you've established, becomes very easy if you've established basics of the world around it.
Yeah. And like you have in this instance, you've got sort of an end goal in mind. You're just sort of filling in the middle, right?
Yeah. I've got a general end goal. I had like a scene in my mind of like what I wanted to be the ending. And for everybody out there who's listening to the podcast, it's a lot harder to put those scenes in the middle of your game, like is like points in the game, because players might not gravitate towards those story points and those scenes. But as an end goal, the ending scene, as long as it's not super duper specific and you had to get there this way, then it works. It's like, I want this thing to happen in that scene. That works great. You can pretty much always get that to happen.
Yeah.
Like that's about a 99.9999% success rate.
The trick is just filling in the space in between to make it
Yes.
seem like there's actual like you're not just bum rushing.
When I popped up the game, it was all smoke and mirrors. I'm just going to put it that way. I didn't quite know what I was going to do. And I also like made a major faux pas in the game. I think I talked about this last time.
Oh yeah.
In terms of like attacking the players way too early, and I had to change everything I had played.
Well,
so this is I did 2 lessons learned out of this same
2 lessons learned. Good. Let's see. The other thing that I like, what I don't know if this applies to your game or not. But the thing that I like to do is I think that player characters should have wants and needs, right? And when they are introduced to a new world, those wants and needs, like there's got to be options or ways for them to express those, to go on their own little mini adventures. And the world that you've created can throw roadblocks up in the way, and that itself can be interesting, while you try and figure out how you're going to get your players to the end goal that you've got planned. Right?
Yeah.
It's like your players need to have their characters have a purpose. They need to have a reason why they're there, sort of a they should be more fleshed out as characters rather than, hey, we're showing up on a Tuesday to play a game and throw some dice. Yeah, but why is your character here? What is their purpose? What is their reason for doing things? Well, I created a fighter, so I'm going to fight things. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it does happen, but like it's more interesting story-wise if the characters themselves have one.
Yes. Again, I sorry. I'll let you say your next point, and then I'll come back and I'll read.
Well, I was going to ask. It's obviously a KYP thing. Do your players adhere to any of this? Do they create their own story points?
They do, but I would say that they typically defer to creating those story points until later in the game. So, like within this game, the goal of me when I started the incomplete game, in my mind, was to just have enough story built up and enough like contingencies built up later on to be able to be like, okay, in a full session, it would be extremely unlikely for my players to exceed like this point of the story. Okay. And if they did, I would just improvise the heck out of it. But they didn't, and they didn't even come close. I built way more than I needed at the start of it, but it was enough that like I know again, this is where KYP comes in. I know my players are going to plan. Okay. They're going to prepare before they continue and move forward to execute. So like even before they got to the part where they traveled back in time, they spent an inordinate amount of time preparing. Okay.
Yeah. Like, but that in itself can be sort of their own player hook. Like,
yes.
Like you've given them a goal rather than them having like a personal character goal. Their goal is, to get to that thing. So they've created their own personal character goals of let's prep. And that's where you can throw in, little missions.
One of my players is definitely super prepared guy. Okay?
Yeah.
He loves doing all that stuff. And that's like, that's great. I love that part of it because I can always count on him to spend a enormous amount of time preparing for like whatever we're going to put in front of us. Again, good and bad problems to have. The bad part of that is that I actually have to stop him from preparing from time to time because I have to be like, okay, you've spent enough time doing that thing. Now let's move forward.
Yeah. This is also like an ongoing game, right? This is like
no. This was not ongoing. Ongoing. Again, you could still do this with an ongoing game. I would actually argue that in a lot of cases, an ongoing game is probably more of this scenario for most people, which is you start something, you got no clue how you're going to work your way through it. And I don't blame you. You're probably planning on telling this story for well over a year, maybe 2. Okay. Could be longer, could be a decade long game. I don't know. Either way, if you are telling a story that you're expecting to be a long chronicle and campaign, I would expect most of your games to start and complete.
Yeah. I was just because also in a long form game like this, if you're doing like a round robin with the DMs, or if you're doing just like, hey, we'll pick up this story later and we just keep on going and the world keeps going. We finish this arc, we're going to do a new arc, and I don't know where it's going to go, but we'll see what happens. Characters may be more developed and may not.
Well, mine was a part of the long running round robin thing. So like all the characters are very developed.
Yeah. So, but that also means that some of their wants and needs may have already been expressed. And so it's not like you've got fresh off the boat characters that just want to make their mark in the world. These are people that have gone around and seen a thing and done a thing or two. So, figure if you've got a starting point and you've got an ending point and you've done a little bit of world building, you've picked a place. I think the next real thing, if you're trying to figure out how to flesh out the middle, is to look at themes.
Mm-hmm.
Like what is the lesson learned that you expect from the end? What is like the theme of the story you're telling, and how can you make scenes and actions and little mini adventures and side quests that sort of support that.
Yeah, I mean the theme is. Yeah, I feel like again most games that you do, if you've got an ending in mind, I would say that you kind of can generalize the theme on how you want to get there. So like whatever your ending you sort of have planned, your game will probably mirror tones of that as you move to the ending. So if your ending is very silly and comical, your game's probably going to be kind of slapstick and a little light. Okay. If your ending's very serious and dark, your game's probably going to have a lot of tones that match that theme. Okay. Because you're working your way to it. That doesn't mean that, again, just because you pick a theme doesn't mean that like it's always raining and it's always dark and it's always midnight and Batman's coming. Okay. It's not that. Okay. It is, however, that is probably what you are trying to enforce along the way. So like if you're trying to tell a story about loss and sadness, you're probably going to have a lot of those tones within your story. Okay? Like if that's how your game is supposed to end and that's the resonating emotion that you want to give your players, you're probably going to thematically make your game very similar.
Well, and you have to give them things to lose along the way.
Yes.
Like you have to build somebody up if you're going to break them down.
Yes.
Not that I think about that all the time, and the best way is to do that to make my players really hurt.
The best use of NPCs, or one of my favorite uses of NPCs, this is a sidetrack and a tangent, is getting players to become attached to the NPC or really like the NPC, and then killing the NPC or having the NPC turn on them, so there's a betrayal or something to that nature. Like
Yes.
that's a great way to like invoke emotions. Doesn't always work really well. It depends on your players. Again, KYP. But if your players do invest in like the world that you put out there, they'll find somebody, and players will gravitate to all sorts of weird little NPCs that you create. The other thing that I thought of with that is that be careful with some NPCs, because some players will decide that they are tools for them to use as stepping stones. And will betray those NPCs when they see when they see it fit for their personal gain. Okay, there's a whole different story.
I was thinking about this in the other direction. I was thinking like, be careful with these NPCs, because if you do something nasty to certain NPCs, your players will revolt. Like if they adopt a dog, don't kill the dog. Just don't do it. Send it somewhere, like to a farm upstate. It's fine. They can visit it on the weekends. But don't kill a pet. Your players will not forgive you. You will not get the ending you want. It's not a good idea. Yeah, no, I think themes are important. I think if you can figure out what the theme is for the game. But like, I'm also thinking like, if you've got sort of a concept for an ending where you want the story to go, and you've got you can start with like a real basic theme, and then as your players go on these little mini adventures, these little side quests, depending on how they interact, how the world sort of treats them, because you are doing this fluid, you are, advancing the story organically in this way, that theme may evolve, may change.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to stick with one theme. In fact, if your players make certain choices that sort of make changes to the world, your theme should evolve. And you should think then about the ending you had planned and see if it still matches.
I'd agree with that. I mean, again, a really well-crafted story in the long run is not static. So, like, it definitely has changes to it. That doesn't mean it can't remain static, but, your players' involvement, like, that's like, so base level storytelling is, your story is this, and I'm going to have my players do the thing. Okay. And that works a lot of the time if you do it well. But the follow on to that is like the next level of storytelling, which is I'm going to let my players do a lot of stuff, okay, that they want to do. They're going to hook into their plot hooks. And based on their actions, I'm going to evolve the game around their actions. And that's like the next level in storytelling. And so, yes, you should evolve your game and your theme to be more connected with your players. So if your players are doing something completely different, or if they're sort of backhanding your theme, doesn't mean to throw it out. It just means to evolve the theme to fit more of what the players are doing.
Yeah, to match their actions, to match the theme that they're picking up. Because you're not starting at your story by saying the theme today is sadness. And today we're going to feel sadness. You're going to give them imagery. You're going to give them events and NPCs and, descriptive things that invoke that feeling. But because you're describing it to them, they can interpret it a different way. And it's up to you to sort of pay attention to your players and to see what they're feeling and how are they interacting with this story. How are they moving forward with it? Do they like these things? What are they grabbing onto? And build your story. Yeah, I agree. There is the other option, which is to have absolutely nothing to do with paying attention to your theme and just throw a bunch of stuff at them. And then when you figure out what your players like about it, retroactively fitting things
again
into
in an incomplete game, you can sort of BS your way through most of it. I mean, like that's the whole point of being. If you start an incomplete game, part of it is going to be smoke and mirrors and you just improvising your way through it. Okay, and your players will be, again, if you've done it right, your players should be none the wiser. If you've done it wrong, your players will won't just like probably come out and realize that you don't know what you got going on, but there will be a lot of questions that you don't know how to answer. And that's really more the tell.
Yeah, I like to think of this as the difference between the Monster of the Week episodes and the storyline episodes.
Yeah.
So X-Files did this a lot. Buffy did this. There's a couple other shows that did this really well.
Basically, any syndicated TV show.
Supernatural was fantastic at this. You would go into an episode of any one of these, and it would be, okay, do the events of the story, are they designed to get you to the end of the series, or is this just a one-off filler with something fun happening? Right? Are we fighting a werewolf, or are we trying to solve the big mystery? And just because it's sort of like a one-off in the story doesn't mean that parts of the things that are happening during it don't matter. Because it is a one-off. It could be, hey, I got dragged into this side quest that doesn't seem to have anything to do with it, but I came across the information I needed to get to the next part of the actual story. Or I got the MacGuffin or information about the MacGuffin that will solve the big bad at the end.
Yes.
And by throwing things at them and seeing what they like, that can also change stuff. This is
usually a lot of those side things all loosely tie into the larger thing that they're dealing with that season or overall. Like, yeah, this werewolf happened to also be connected to the big bad.
Yeah, it's amazing. You never knew he had werewolves or anything in this before, but apparently werewolves are a thing now. And sometimes, like, just because you're throwing random stuff at them and you're not like necessarily following along with what your players are picking up, doesn't mean that you can't pick things out from just these Monster of the Week episodes that your players like. There have been characters in these old TV shows that people liked, NPCs, as you were, and they became season regulars because, hey, you were in that one episode and it was good, so we're going to bring you back.
Mhm.
And that's interesting. That's one of those things that happens and becomes a big part of those old shows. There's no reason you can't incorporate that into your game. Your players go on a seemingly random jaunt to go fight a werewolf in the middle of your mobster epic, and no, werewolves are now a big part of your story. You found a werewolf that has
On the werewolf mafia pipeline right there. It's just
well, then the werewolves have always been fighting the mafia, and why is that? Because the mafia is full of the undead? I don't know. There's got to be a reason. Now you got a fun and interesting story.
If you're playing World of Darkness, it sure is. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is my next point. Like I really went hard with the TV shows here. And I think the next point really fits that also is I just have the words J.J. Abrams.
I like the last little bullet here, which is lens flare.
Okay.
Explain. I know what it means in terms of J.J. Abrams. What the heck are you talking about with role play?
Okay. So in a J.J. Abrams TV show and or movie, like J.J. Abrams did Lost. Okay.
Yeah.
He did Fringe. And in those shows, in like the first season or the first two seasons of each, he just threw stuff at the wall. And no explanation. Here's some weird stuff. Here's some other weird stuff. Here's some weird NPCs that you don't find out what they are. Here's, some strange MacGuffins. We're going to come up with a name for a thing and not explain it. There's a pattern. There's a mystery. There's a smoke monster. We don't have to worry about these things. You don't do a bunch of mysteries all at the same time. You can drop them one at a time. And like this week we were introduced to the smoke monster. Next week we're introduced to some spooky Men in Black agents. And like the main story can get resolved because it's still Monster of the Week style. We've given them a little mission.
Mhm.
We've let our players go and run a thing, and they run across these weird things as they go, right? The concept here is that you can then pick and choose what your players actually like from these missions as a bigger mystery and tie that into your whole story. The lens flare, which is the thing that J.J. Abrams kept using in his TV shows, his movies, like to an unbelievable amount. When we're not obviously flashing lights in their players' eyes, but it sort of blinds them.
Mm-hmm.
It's no, you didn't see that. It's a distraction. It's you don't need to follow up on all of the mysteries in your story.
Yes.
Either they can be saved for later, or they can be ignored completely, depending on whether or not your players give a crap. You just sort of like, oh, you saw a thing? No, you didn't. It's gone. It's missing now. And it's part of that whole smoke and mirrors thing where you didn't have a plan where things were going. And you may not have a concept of what these mysteries actually are going to mean until you sort of start to put it in context later. But if your players didn't like a smoke monster in your game, well, then it never happened. Just lens flared away.
Okay. I see. It's the way to obfuscate any part of the story you didn't want.
Yeah, it just disappears in the bright flash of nothingness. Yeah, I I actually thought that was one of the reasons why he did that in some of his shows, was like, hey, I'm just throwing random stuff at you.
I thought he just liked lens flare. Okay, I'm just
it was like a bright flash in your face so that you would be confused, or you didn't notice what was going on.
I think you're giving J.J. Abrams a lot more credit than.
Listen, he hasn't made anything decent in the last 10 years, so I'm not really worried about it.
Okay. Careful, Josh. We're gonna get lens flared. Okay.
Oh no. Yeah. Is there any J.J. Abrams related anything you wanna throw in this point?
I was not thinking J.J. Abrams when I gave this topic to you. I'll let you tangent on J.J. Abrams and how it relates to starting a game with no thought of how it's supposed to end.
Okay, tell me, in Fringe, this guy just wanted to make a X-Files...
To be fair, Fringe never finished Fringe. Fringe didn't get syndicated.
No, it went for 5 seasons.
I didn't think that they actually concluded Fringe.
Oh yeah, several times. There's an honest to goodness definitive ending to Fringe that ties everything together, and it was absolutely not written by him. This is the problem with some of these mystery boxes, right? Is if you throw a lot of stuff at the wall and you're just like, I'm going to throw weird stuff out there and see what the players grab onto, what they enjoy. You have to come up with a way to make it work.
You have to tie up your loose ends. This is the problem that a lot of, like, if you read like famous authors, I'll name the most concerning one, which would be what?
The most egregious with his terrible endings.
Well, sorry, who are you thinking of?
Oh, I was thinking about Stephen King.
Okay, yeah, Stephen King's a good example of, but that is poorly tying up loose ends. Okay, poorly doing it. Okay, not ever tying them up would be like what George R.R. Martin is doing with Game of Thrones, which is he created another book. He introduced a million new characters, and now he's got too many things to tie up within 2 books, which he's never going to write, by the way. That's a whole different story. I'm not going to get into that. He'll die long before he finishes writing those stories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can't wait until Brandon Sanderson finishes off The Winds of Winter.
He will. That Brandon Sanderson will probably finish off the entire series of Game of Thrones because he'll have the stones to write it and actually tie up the loose ends. So,
like he did with Robert Jordan. Yeah.
Yes.
Like it'll be done in like 10 minutes because the guy writes 7,000 pages a month. It's impressive.
Again, tie up your loose ends. You don't want to just give the players, but that's my point.
Yes.
Which is, don't give the players too much stuff, because the more stuff you put out there are more things that you have to either close off, tie up, tie back in. You don't need to unnecessarily create a bunch of stuff just for the sake of creating a bunch of stuff, because believe me, figuring out how it all fits together, if it's not cohesive, again, it's the same way where it's like that I said earlier, where it's like, if you're improvising and you're not doing it well, the players kind of realize that you're not doing it well. Like, they're like, you had no idea what you're doing.
No. It's why Monster of the Week works really well in this sense, is that you don't have to write an overarching story. You just have to write tonight's story. And then you can see where it goes from there. And like, this is that whole concept of laying the tracks right in front of your players, right? Is if you are coming up with a story on the fly while your players are sitting at the table or online or whatnot, if you're really good, you can make it happen. Mm-hmm. If you've done this before, you can probably work with something. But you'd be better off with at least an outline of what you plan to do, if not a little bit more. A couple of events, some actual interactions, a couple of NPCs that you wanted to introduce, an action piece, something. And if you can do that for tonight, then you don't have to worry about next week until after tonight's done.
Is this how this ties into your next point, which is let the players determine their story?
Kind of. But I think all of this has been that. Everything that we've talked about so far has been like...
In this case, because you have something that's incomplete, until you figure out how to take those loose ends and put them together, letting the players drive is perfectly acceptable. And having a formula to allow them to engage in fun night after night, that's your lifesaver. Like Josh talked about Monster of the Week, that's your lifesaver, and then figure out how you're going to tie these loose ends together. See the things that your players have gravitated towards and figure out how you're going to tie them together. You've got that loose ending, okay? Can you make these pieces fit into the loose ending? Yeah. That's the key along the way. And then let the players enjoy. And when the players have done enough, like, you should be able to come up with more complex plots than the Monster of the Week as the game evolves. Okay, like, the game should naturally take like that path. And if you're having trouble getting there, then you really need to think about then what is this like repetitive thing I'm having the players doing? How does it fit into the bigger story? And let that become the thing.
I would like to point out that just because your story is evolving into more of a structured format and you're moving away from Monster of the Week all the time, don't get rid of it. If your players enjoy doing a Monster of the Week, throw one at them every now and then.
It's always good to have one in your back. It's good to have one in your back pocket all the time. It's just like straight combat in a game. Okay, combat's always a good way to you got to get a heavy dose of your barbarian smashing someone in the face. All right, like it's a thing. Okay, and your players need it. You'll need it. Your players will thank you for it. Again, it's gonna sound formulaic, but you kind of need to have some sort of, combat rolling situation just about every other night. Doesn't have to be every night, but every other night you have to have something. It doesn't have to be very long. They can be short. They can be long. They can be epic. They can be pathetic. Doesn't matter. That's like it helps break up your game in very clear ways, and it makes the game very, very enjoyable. And so, like you said, with the Monster of the Week would have that built into it. Monster of the Week helps you incorporate that in your game. It also helps you buy time. Like, okay, now you've got a really detailed plot forming. Okay, your players have done a lot of stuff. Monster of the Week helps you, find more time to put those ideas together. Like, it's an easy thing, and you should always be able to have it in your back pocket. It's like one of the tools that you should have in a long game is be able to do this repetitive task over and over again in different fun ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think so. Let's just clarify here. Make an interesting world. Your players should want to do things and follow along with that. Throw roadblocks in their way. Figure out the theme for your story and let it evolve with your players. Have a Monster of the Week available to them just to throw them into a situation and see how you can make it work into the story. And then throw mystery stuff every now and then. And whatever they grab onto, try and find a way to make it work into the overall narrative. Then there you go. You can build the track in front of your players, but like, you've got the tools then, so you don't have to build the whole rail system. You can just build tonight's section and work from there.
There you go. Do you have anything else you want to add to this, Josh, besides the summary?
Yeah. Just that one last little bit is that everything we've said, every little bit and piece that we've said, it does require a lot of thinking on the fly. And you really, really, really need to take notes. You can't just like rely on your memory about what we did last night. If I, make stuff up or go along with some world building, write it down. Write it down
If you're mashing all this stuff together, you do need to have very, I wouldn't say super detailed notes, but you need to have good enough notes that you are not like betraying other plot points that you put together.
Yeah. Like, write it down. Like, do like a post-game summary, just note, like, here's what happened. And it'll make it easier. And it'll make whatever session you've got scheduled for the next one work a lot better.
I agree. Well, that's going to wrap us up for the week. So if you have any thoughts on starting an incomplete game, maybe you've successfully done it or something similar, let us know. Level Up Your Gaming Podcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/level up your gaming. The podcast is on YouTube or your favorite podcasting site, if that's how you want to listen to it. So you can subscribe to it, smash the like button if it's on YouTube, review it, comment, recommend it to a friend, all those good things. And that'll wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.